Howdy.
Hi.
I almost was very late for this meeting. Lost track of time, looked at my clock, 2 minutes after the hour. Whew.
I'll have to do some packing, so we'll keep this on in the background.
Oh, I was just about to ask, is your computer on the floor?
Just running around with it right now.
Fabian was looking down on us. Oh, your audio is off. All right, who do we have today? Oh, Brian Richter's here. Excellent. Howdy. Assuming Brian is Brian Richter.
Figure out there. Hello.
Howdy.
Oh,
Well, welcome. Just taking quick attendance here. We got Denise, Michelle, Fabian, Hurry, and Nate are all regulars. David is a regular. And for those of you who have not met him, Brian Richter is the person that Linux Foundation has hired for about 1 day a week of work on T4, Lang, GitHub, CI, CD kinds of and other automation tasks. So welcome, Brian, to your first TST meeting.
Thanks.
That stands for Technical Steering Team, of which Fabian, myself, Hari Thantry at Google, and Nate Foster at Cornell University are all members, as well as one more at Google who is not present. Michelle Roth, I'm guessing you've already met on email. She works for Linux Foundation. And Denise Barton is, do you work for Linux Foundation as well, Denise, or?
I'm independent consultant and work on the marketing.
Okay. So, but yeah, Denise and Michelle have been longtime people helping out, keeping the trains running here at p4.org.
Yep.
And David Scano is probably one of our most active non-elected leaders, I guess, because he's been in the last 6 months or so organizing up to 2 to 3 talks per month that we've been putting on for technical topics on related to the P4 language. So these meetings tend to be, I mean, as usual, I think we should probably go ahead and get started. As usual, I tend to copy and paste the agenda from last month's because we have a lot of ongoing topics at these meetings. But as usual, if any folks have new topics they want to raise, agenda items they want to add, if you've got one already in mind now, let me know. But if you mention it anywhere during the meeting or at the end, we should have time. We often don't need the whole hour. I do want to spend some time with us just talking to Brian, asking questions, and discussing possible ways we might work together. All right, so let me go to updates on the agenda. Let's see. So for the P4 ecosystem lead position, P4 TSD members will soon be interviewing candidates. I think what we're going to be interviewing, I think around 6 to 8 candidates, if I remember correctly, starting next week.
More applicants. So we have 35 total applicants and narrowed it down to 8 to start interviews.
And the hope is that after that first round of interviews, the TST members on the interviews will narrow it down to about 3 or so for the governance board to then do a second round of interviews and make a final decision. But that's in progress now. Great. Any other updates on there, Michelle? Can't think of any other than interviews are ongoing. And if any, I think you've gotten emails from Michelle about to TST members about participating in interviews. If you're interested, just respond to her and she can add you to the invites. I've already mentioned, yeah, Brian Richter has been hired. He's started. If it's okay, Brian, I might just do a round of the other regular kind of updates, which I think will be relatively quick, and then we can come back to maybe more in-depth discussion with you. But yeah, for months now, this item has been at the form. We're looking for somebody, and we've offered somebody a position. We've interviewed somebody and gotten board approval. So now you're here. Welcome. Google Summer of Code, I believe, is wrapping up. As mentioned last month, there's a wrap-up webinar scheduled for September 17th. You need to ideally register to attend. There's a Zulip channel for folks who want to be involved in messages there, but I believe, I don't know, David, do you have any updates other than
Yeah, so Billy share an email with all of you, with the TST, and basically the official deadline for Google Summer of Code is the 8th of September. One of the project is already, let's say, closed, and let's say the bureaucracy things are done. And while the other 3 are still open, meaning that we have, let's say, we have asked to the student to, let's say, do some fixes in the report in the GSOC repository on GitHub, and the mentor has to deliver the, let's say, the evaluation. But as I said, the deadline is the 8th of September. And then the 17th of September, will be the wrap-up meeting.
Great. Looking forward to that. And I know at least maybe some of the students might be interested in continuing some contributions after the official project is over, but that's really up to them, their individual schedules and interest. But hopefully we'll get some that are interested in future contributions as well. All right. Any other questions about Google Summer of Code? The 2025 P4 workshop now feels close. We're just a little bit over a month away, October 13th. All the talk submissions was finalized, sent in deadline a month ago. The program committee has reviewed them. Fernando Ramos, the program committee chair, has looked at all those reviews and decided which ones to accept and which to decline. And we have, if I remember correctly, two of the, we already, since we have such a short live session from noon to 3:30, we actually already had a keynote and two keynotes and several live invited talks, scheduling most of the time slots during the live session. 2 of the top-rated submissions were accepted for the live talk, and then I believe about another 10 or so were accepted for recorded presentations that will be published either on or near the day of the live workshop for anyone to view. And we'll have program committee members moderating those recorded ones so that there could be some Q&A there, a little more interaction. So I think
Andy, we also had one demo that was submitted and accepted through the CFP process, and we will be inviting them to demo in the P4 booth at OCP Global. We haven't worked out exactly the timing yet on that.
Yes, and so yeah, we do have a booth at OCP Global Summit. That will be for
Yep.
all 3 days of the workshop. So I'm sorry, so there's the workshop, P4 workshop is just Monday afternoon only. And then the OCP Global Summit will be Tuesday through Thursday all day. And we have a booth open all of those days. And Denise has been encouraging people to volunteer to staff that booth. And I believe we have someone for every hour, as well as some people that we have some about half the time slots, or we have 2 volunteers,
Yep.
which is great because then they can have somebody else to talk to and visit with, and or one of them might be able to go off and take little breaks during those times. So that's going well. If anybody else who hasn't signed up already is interested in staffing the booth, if you pick at least 2 2-hour time slots of volunteer time, you get a free pass to the OCP Global Summit. So let her know if you're interested, although I guess once we get up to about 2 volunteers per time slot, we'll probably be full then at that point and stop accepting new
Right.
ones.
Yep.
A good problem to have, almost full.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we are working on a new slide deck to introduce P4 to at the show. We'll use it as kind of a scrolling slide deck in the booth. And I'm thinking we probably should share it with this group as well for input after we get it cleaned up, Andy.
Yep, yep. I will be that. Denise has already updated
Mhm.
the list of members and other contributors, any other contributors. So thank you for that. We got a nice splash page of all the logos of the companies that are members. And let me think. Anything else there? Is there anything else? Yeah, I have one. Let me read my notes here. So yeah, notes to TST members. We're considering having a live combined meeting of TST members and governance board members during that week. The particular date isn't scheduled yet, but I'll be looking to see if I can reserve one of those cool teleconference rooms that Cisco still has a few of. I haven't been in one of those in a while, but hopefully I can reserve one of those. And if anybody's remote, they can dial in. But I think we'll have a large fraction of people there live, probably in the same room for the first time in quite a while, maybe since a previous P4 workshop. So keep an eye in your email inbox for that invite and details in the near future. Let me think. Anything else? I think I've said most of this. Yep, David is still going gangbusters on the P4 developer days. There's around 2 to 3 talks per month scheduled all the way through every month of 2025, is my understanding, and starting to even schedule things into early next year. So thank you again, David, for all that hustling. That's a lot of. I'm curious what your hit rate is. Like, how many people have you contacted that you haven't haven't arranged to talk with so far? Oh, you're
Think
muted.
that we still have 6 people that are pending.
So
So
most
yes.
most people you've contacted, you've gotten to a yes.
Yeah, to be honest,
Oh,
yes, it was
okay.
a nice rate. I was lucky, to be honest, but yeah.
Okay. Nice. Great. Let me think. Yeah, but if you have any ideas for anybody that any talks you'd be interested in arranging that, let David know or hand him the contact. Let me think. Um, Update on because I've been unsuccessful at twisting hard enough on the arms of some of the working group chairs, myself included. Um, we will. Denise is planning to attend near future P4 language design and API work group meetings next week
I'm
to
crashing the
solicit
meetings.
ideas. Yes, please do. Thank you for being proactive there. I think that'll help. And so we'll dedicate at least a little bit of time in each of those meetings for brainstorming ideas for what to include in a update blog article for the year for each of those working groups. This is just a reminder for me for software license updates that I started early in the year, but I haven't done anything with in about 5 months. So I might take that off here soon, but I want to leave it there as a reminder to when I get back to it. If anybody else is interested in looking at software license issues on our P4Lang repos, let me know. But if not, no worries. So let's see. With that, I think it'd be good to come back to Brian. And I don't know, Brian, if you just want to tell us a little bit about your background, yourself, other relevant work you've
Sure.
done. Yeah, thanks.
I noticed I had the wrong mic. I think this is a better one. And now when I
Sounds
mute it,
good.
it should actually mute itself. Anyways, yeah. So I met Fabian at Google Summer of Code Mentor Summit last year, and I was talking about work that I was doing for the Haskell Foundation. He said, "Huh, we could really use that too." And I said, "I know, right? It seems like everyone could use that." He's like, "No, actually, I'm going to see if we could get funding to make this happen." And the work that I do is for the Haskell Foundation. I've bounced around some doing different tasks there now, but it was really starting off with helping the CI experience for the GHC compiler. And I mean, CI is, or these pipelines are sort of a service that now pretty much any software project depends on. And it's a service, and like any service, it requires maintenance and features and upkeep and somebody to just pay attention. Or when someone throws complaints into the void, someone needs to be there to pick them up and do something with them. And unfortunately, it usually is a void. But I'm glad to sort of start seeing what I can do to fix things. Often it's just lots of little things that nobody else has time for, which is great. I mean, that's what I can do. And I have like one specific thing that I did for GHC is there's just so many times that a job would fail for no good reason, like a server would, I mean, not that this happens particularly often, but say a server crashes, and that shouldn't cause a CI failure. And I built a tool that just restarts these jobs where it can detect what the failure was and say this was spurious and restart it. And that was enough to like really improve the developer experience. Obviously, you want to fix underlying causes, but sometimes you just need to restart things. But there's all sorts of other stuff to do as well. I mean, I know we've already talked a little bit, something about the release process, which could probably use automation. That's always, trying to automate these very finicky manual processes. It's great to automate them, but that takes some work also, and sort of, just sort of grunt work to dot, cross the T's and dot the I's and figure out exactly what are the steps, and then automate them. I have only dug in a little bit so far with the P4 stuff. I'm, brand new to the project actually, and apart from working on CI, I don't have any experience with P4 itself. And then like when we finally got everything squared away, then I already had like a hiking trip planned, smashed together with going to California to my brother's wedding. So I just got back an hour and a half ago. So
Boy, your arm's tired.
Yeah. Looking forward to digging in soon. And yeah, happy to hear any questions or any comments, or just
Great.
people's experience. Like what is the current pulse on, like, CI? I think of it as like it's there's this whole process of developer writes code and then everyone else has to make sure that it's okay. You're not breaking the project. And CI is basically automation to do that. But it's just one component of that overall experience. People coming in, they want to contribute, or they have to contribute for work, or they want to contribute because they're students or they're interested, just volunteers. And there's a million ways that they can get paper cut, death by a million cuts, and not be successful or not have a good time. And CI failing is one of them. But I think there's lots of other things that could fall under that banner. And there's also just like things continue to fall apart over time. So it's not just a matter of fixing the things that are broken today, but keeping track of things that continue to try to get worse. Just entropy increases, and you got to beat it back a little bit.
Yeah, welcome. And And glad you didn't postpone or delay any wedding plans to start working. So good. And yeah, I mean, Fabian I'm guessing Fabian is the person who spent the most amount of time among everybody working on P4Lang projects in the past, say, year and a half on CI kinds of things. So I don't know, Fabian, if you've kept track of that time, but it was not non-trivial. It was like your biggest hobby, it must have been, or if it wasn't, then I want to know what your biggest hobby was.
Well, getting things into shape was, yeah, a substantial amount of effort. Nowadays, thankfully, things are a bit smoother, but there's still lots of work to do, and it's
Yep.
continuing. I mean, back then we had Jenkins, I believe, or something else, and then switched to GitHub Actions. And so all the pain points, resolving all of these over time, I think, took most of the time.
And
Yeah.
go ahead.
Now the big dragon to fight is packaging, getting a consistent packaging story right for all of the little projects we have.
Yeah,
I think that's
we kind of a mix of like 3 projects that are primarily C or C++,
yes,
producing binaries, and then we have pretty much everything has some Python for either testing or runtime packages that are needed for interacting with those binaries. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of helps to have some Python knowledge and uh, we were maybe, I don't know, like a lot of people, I think we probably took us a year or two after 2020 before we finally got rid of Python 2 in our code base. And so we're all Python 3 now, at least. We don't have that issue anymore. But there are still
yes.
ongoing issues with like 2 of the biggest libraries are gRPC and protobuf have their binaries as well as Python packages wrappers for using them, and those are finding which
And you
which
have
range of
to,
which range of versions actually works or is tested well with everything is kind of an ongoing. It only bugs me when a new version of Ubuntu comes out that you got to figure out
yes,
which versions
and
work
you
with
need to
those.
make it work with the C++ protobuf or
Yep.
the servers, and you have to align those versions. And I haven't solved that problem yet.
And,
So
and
there's
we have had volunteers in the past create Docker container, Docker files for various things, and also we had a volunteer that created Debian packages, I believe, of some of the binaries as well as the Python packages bundled together.
yes.
And those have kind of fallen by the wayside as that volunteer was no longer interested and no one else was interested in taking up the torch on that. And so as far as which kind of, the kinds of, yeah, like you mentioned, the kind of things we'd like going forward, I guess would be, you know, I published a script that I've updated for 5 or 6 years now that basically can download and install everything from source that takes 2 hours on an older machine and 1 hour on some of the newer Macs. But which is fine and what I do and test every month. But it would be kind of nice if we had pre-set up installers that people could just on at least a couple of versions of Linux uh, install more like a Debian package or a Ubuntu package. Um, and then I guess the other thing would be so having some kind of like yeah pre set up packages that work on a few versions of Linux, a short list. And then the other thing I guess would be sort of the flagship compiler P4C, a large fraction of its runtime of its tests in CI use something called the software switch, the BMV, the behavioral model 2 or BMV2 software switch for its tests. And right now they use a published Ubuntu package that I mentioned earlier that's kind of fallen by the wayside. It fell by the wayside 2 years ago. It hasn't updated dramatically in the last 2 years, but basically all the P4C tests in CI now use a 2-year-old version of that program. And it would be nice if it used something that we could control, maybe among a few choices of the last several months build or something like that. Would be nice. So yeah, packaging and updating that seem like I don't know, 2 things that I put high on my priority list of wish list. But I'm sure other folks feel free to, Fabian or others, to mention. I guess so. Part of it is like, what do you want on your wish list? What's top on your wish list? And then how should we communicate in the future? You know, like, should we have a new GitHub repo with just issues on that one? That's just, you know, if it's on there, then Brian pays attention to them, and if they're not, then he doesn't, or some other way of interacting that I think kind of tracks items that we'd like him to work on. Any suggestions there? Brian, if you have recommendations on how you'd like to interact with the team and get requests, we're all ears. I think it's pretty small group of people here, and if you have preferences on how you'd like to get requests and prioritize them, please help with how you'd like to see those.
I mean, for my part, I think just I can take in things from lots of places, but I think that knowing like the right way to sort of visualize it or make it easy to report is the question. And unfortunately, I don't have a great answer since there's lots of ways to do it. I mean, staying on GitHub seems sensible, unless you guys already have, yeah, I'm open to suggestions.
I mean, we do have one GitHub project that's pretty much only for issues called Project Ideas, p4lang/project-ideas. That's just got issues. It's got no code. We could, one idea would be just keep that and assign a couple of labels that are specific things that we consider like be great if you could take a look at those sooner rather than later. Be one idea rather than, and then any that aren't that don't have those labels are, you know, other things that people stuck there.
Yeah, I would also be fine with just having some list in this meeting notes of like reminders of here are the basic ideas, and I could give updates on them as another possibility. I could, these could go together, like at have a sort of a high level checklist.
I see. Okay. Yeah,
I think that
something-
might be nice, because then there's an actual like cadence and
Yep.
reporting, sort of someone I'm reporting to and where I'm reporting.
Yep. I mean, you think attending this meeting every month would be a reasonable thing for your probably a good thing for your schedule for that kind of reminder, fresh reminder and feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be fine. We can always readjust. One thing that I do for Haskell is I just write monthly reports also, and like
Okay.
put them somewhere public on their discourse. I could do that on Zulip or something
Sounds
for
great.
Yeah.
P4.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I think
Zulip is good, and we don't necessarily have a place on GitHub, so Zulip might be better, or here in these docs.
yeah, we do have a
Thank
Zulip channel set up, and these docs are another place that we can. Happy to let it be writable for you and let you add notes here if you'd prefer for like a monthly report. And my monthly report, I don't necessarily mean like, I think a third of a page or less is probably better than longer in some cases. And a third of a page might be too much if there's not much to say.
Yeah. I think why don't, like, just for this first month, I'll just plan on coming back to the next meeting, and we can see what kind of content there is, and like and report here.
Sure.
Give a little update, and then, because right now, I'm not unfamiliar with all those systems, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to get myself
Okay.
into if I sign up to one of those things. But I'll of course I'll get familiar with it over the month, and then we can adapt if something's better. But I'm fine to do async. I'm fine to do synchronous.
So how about if I make sure, as long as you have some Google account, I can make sure you have write permission for this document.
Yeah.
And maybe we could plan for, there'd be a section in there just for your report for the month, a few bullet items or so.
Yeah. I am. Let's see. I think I'm actually viewing it right now as I'll just request access.
Great.
Where did that go? Here it is.
Sounds good. And then I don't know if we want to come how much. I guess I'll double check real quick here. Are there any other agenda topics that folks have thought of during the meeting that they'd like to make sure we have time for? All right. If not, then I'd like to spend a few more minutes talking to Brian, if that's all right. And the rest of the group too. I mean, if folks have any, do you have any recommendations, Brian, for like, so I guess let me think. The distribution of Linux that we've supported best in terms of CI and what I'm willing to answer questions about on public issues at least is, the latest long-term support version of Ubuntu Linux, or, one of the last two, or, anything that's still under long-term support in that 5-year window. If it's, I mean, we have had some CI that does do testing on Fedora Linux as well. I don't know if maybe one version of Debian or something like that on some projects somewhere. I'm not sure, but except for those, I mean, it's pretty much like, given the resources we have, like we've kept it to a small list just to keep it manageable for the volunteers who have been updating things. I don't know if there's one packaging solution that covers those three things and maybe other things all in one fell swoop, or whether
We also have M1 Mac
oh yes,
and
right.
Intel Mac, but only on the compiler. I'm not sure about the behavior model. I think also there.
It has worked before, although I've never used it myself.
Yeah. Well, we maintain that on the compiler at least. It's not too complicated. At least
So-
for the behavior model.
So out of curiosity, so I know you've asked about or created an issue, Fabian, about NixOS or Nix as a packaging system, if I remember.
There's some people that use it a lot, and so there's people that use. We have requests coming from Arch users and NixOS users regularly. There's one dedicated person that files an issue probably like every month or every 2 months about something breaking on Arch. And then the NixOS person, that's I think some team in Switzerland, Zurich, that maintains Tofino NixOS packaging setup. And they occasionally have requests.
So I'm curious if anybody knows. I got the impression, maybe the wrong impression, that the Nix packaging is usable on other Linux distributions besides NixOS. Is that true, or is that me?
Yeah, so I've been using NixOS for my laptop for a long time, and like all of the Haskell stuff is in Nix. So I can talk about it. I can say that it's got some good features, but I think that you sort of have to drink all of the Nix Kool-Aid if you're going to start using it. Like it does give you like install Nix and then everything else will just magically work. But Nix is just so far out in left field. It's you're not using any of your operating systems package management systems at all. It's all completely isolated by design, and it creates like it breaks a lot of assumptions that most people have on Linux, and that's great. It all works great inside of its own ecosystem, but like even if there was and as a matter of fact, that thing that you just mentioned, Fabian, the Nix whatever, I was able to use that it worked great on my NixOS laptop. I was able to create a Nix shell, which just pulls in all the dependencies that I might need, and then I was able to build and run tests and stuff on NixOS, which would
Interesting. There was a Zulip discussion on it. I pinged you. I added you to that maybe. Where someone
I
had
saw that.
Yeah, for the P4 compiler to make it a little bit more easier, but they already got it working, and that's kind of not bad actually.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
don't have any support for it, right? So in
So
CI at least.
it sounds, Brian, like you're saying that suppose, normally I just, have Ubuntu Linux, latest long-term support release, and I normally, use apt-get to install packages. Using Nix packaging on that would be painful and or anti-recommended, it sounds like you'd say.
Yeah, I would avoid it for now because Nix is such a steep learning curve
Mhm.
that and you have to start using the Nix tools in order to benefit from Nix packaging. That
Got it.
you really just throw people into the deep end. It's
Yeah.
like I can never see like I'm of two minds because I can never see going back now that I'm on NixOS and I've been on NixOS since like 2018. I can't go back, but I also wouldn't force it on people because it
Sure.
is such a steep learning curve and it just breaks all of your expectations of how Linux system works. And like Nix does run on most distros, so you can use it as a package manager on top of whatever other Linux system or Mac. But then you're still like you're in this total other world. It's like using what is it, Brew?
Homebrew.
But
Yeah.
yeah, Homebrew. But it just imagine that Homebrew does not work with anything else anywhere. Because it changes the way things are linked together. It forces everything to be absolute paths.
Got it.
There's no sharing outside of
So
Nix.
it's a bad idea to recommend that, especially newcomers install it and use it on an Ubuntu system or a Mac unless
Yeah.
unless they're already gung-ho about it.
Yeah. I think Nix, like the best place for NixOS right now is like on a server where there's not users. You're just running services, because then all of that isolation means that you know exactly what's been installed and you can easily roll back, roll forward, do good stuff for like all of the use of it in the Haskell world is all running services. And then the compiler itself is built for Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, blah blah blah. And as far as that goes, like choosing distros, I think I know another thing that I mean, like the two things. Well, there's a couple things that seem to matter, and that's one of them is the C library that you're either linking to or static, either dynamically or statically linking, and then the platform architecture. And so you can get like one binary that links against a modern version of glibc and works on AR64, and then it'll work on Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, whatever, as long as it's like doesn't have too many other shared library dependencies that aren't there. But then like, so you can get away with building a smaller subset, but then when you want to test, then of course you want to have like a stock vanilla Ubuntu, stock vanilla Fedora, and test these packages that you build. So there's some possibility there of like having a nice test suite that tests a lot of platforms, and then realizing, okay, actually we don't need to build specifically for Fedora and specifically for Ubuntu if the same underlying package would actually just work fine, because you know that these two versions are using the same version of glibc and whatever else. You just have different installation instructions for pre-installation. Here's the system libraries you need to make sure are there before you can unpack the P4 thingy and get it going. So that's definitely one way to go. And I think you'd want to start with having the tests there first, like being confident about the platforms that you test on. And as far as which platforms, I mean, it sounds like you've chosen the perfectly fine set. I don't know. Arch I know is a lot like NixOS in that they're a little. I don't know much about Arch, but I know the stereotype is that it's always broken. Because there's like things. I guess it's sort of built fragilely, which is true for Nix as well. Like, but there seems to be a critical mass of people within the Nix community who fix things and get them working. And the user experience is a little more stable. Whereas on Arch, I hear of people like having things break all the time.
At least in my experience, Arch is a great canary in the coal mine, because that user is reporting he's using the latest version of some library, and that library breaks. because
Yeah, that's true. That's
it has
fair.
bad interaction with something. And we know, okay, we're gonna upgrade to this library eventually. So it's good to know that down the road we have to deal with this anyway. So it's actually useful for that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's great.
yeah.
I think
But-
one thing, like, I like CI to always be green. I think that's the nature of CI, is it should be green. But there are things that you want to run, not expecting them to succeed. I just think you have to think of that as something other than CI. So you can, like, you can run the latest bleeding edge of Ubuntu and see if it fails or not. It just has to be like the output of that should be a report, and the report always succeeds. The test running itself doesn't necessarily have to. And yeah, having canaries like that is really useful.
So do you have experience? I mean, I'm not saying that this must be a goal, but I'll toss out the proposed, a possible goal of, you know, Debian/Ubuntu packages that you can apt-get install with precompiled binaries and whatever setup for dependencies on Python packages needed that would make it all work. Is that the kind of thing you've set up for the Haskell Foundation as well, is creating those kinds of packages?
No, like
Okay.
what Haskell uses is just like binary installations. So they're sort of external to the packaging system, which is kind of, sad. It's kind of the same situation. Like there was a volunteer who would build a PPA for Ubuntu,
Mhm.
and they've disappeared. So now there's no really up-to-date PPA.
They stopped
But
volunteering.
yeah. Well, I'm not. I think someone knows what happens to them, but they have completely vanished. But anyways, yeah. So like, and I know there's a guy. I'm actually one of the guys I work with often is he does the Fedora packaging for the Haskell compiler. But like the Haskell, like the core GHC group doesn't do that themselves. They just build these bin dists, what they call them,
Got it.
and they're basically a tarball with the binaries and a make install script that you can point at a directory, and it'll put the documentation and the binaries and like set things up. And what people would prefer is like a sort of what do you call it? Relocatable tarball. You just unzip it, and there are the binaries. And you can just run them from the directory you impact.
Mhm.
I think like I kind of think like that's a. I mean, I think once you have that, then creating Fedora specific and Ubuntu specific packages should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You just have to wrap them into the. I mean, because that's basically what an Ubuntu PKG is, anyways. It's just some metadata that you need to add on top of it.
But even without the apt or yum installable packages, that's a nice intermediate step that people can quickly install a new version without having to recompile it all from scratch themselves if they don't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That seems like a nice intermediate goal that could be, perhaps even a final goal for a good long time.
Yeah. So what's the status now? Like if someone wants to install, like have a recent released version of the compiler suite, or are they stuck? Do they have to build it themselves, or like if these packages are sort of bit rotten, you can't do a apt-get install right now, or is there something that still works?
That there is an apt-get install you can do of a August 2023 version of some stuff that
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
So we
Okay,
have
yeah. So then, like, yeah,
monthly
They ha-
releases, but it's literally just the source code, and
yeah,
that's it. So you have to install from scratch, which of course can take a long time, and it's confusing.
yeah, for sure.
and like
Yeah,
I
I
said,
mean, I think that's a great thing to get going. Then is just having some bin dist release. That's just mostly just a tarball.
and like I say, I've got a bash script that people can run and then git clones and runs all the compilation steps on an Ubuntu Linux system.
I mean, that's halfway.
And
That's almost all
yeah,
the
it
way
takes an
there.
hour or
Like,
two,
just
and it does. Well, and it does, but it doesn't then create like a tarball you can download to another system. It just like you have to run that on the system, or else
yeah.
it's not made to do anything else. But it
Well, I
might
mean,
be useful to look at as like what do you add to the end to create the installable thing from that, perhaps.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it. It sounds like it's 90% of the way there. I could be wrong. It could be 80%, the famous
Yeah.
80%, which takes 20% of the time. But
I mean,
I-
I've spent so much time maintaining that 80% that I've never really been motivated to go for the other 20% because keeping that 80% working is already a few hours a month sometimes.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's a great starting point. I think that being able to have some bin distance, like let's start small. Let's start with one. We get the Ubuntu LTS, and then we can build up. We can think about how much infrastructure we want for a given release. Like maybe we go all the way with getting a PPA or something for Ubuntu, and then we can turn our sights on another distro.
So
Or we could start trying to build bin dists for other distros first, just to have them out there.
yeah, I mean having a bin dist for Ubuntu and then maybe for one or two other flavors of Linux sounds like a good a great that'd be an improvement over what we've got now. And very useful. Oh, I guess from that same script I just mentioned, once a month I create a VirtualBox VM of Ubuntu
Oh, yeah.
Linux that just like you can download that. It's like 6 GB. You download it and it's already got those things precompiled on it, nothing else.
Yep.
But that's not the solution a lot of people want. They don't necessarily want to fire up a VirtualBox VM that's 6 GB in size or larger just to get these
Yeah,
tools.
for sure.
But it was something I knew how to create without a lot of trouble. So I'll send you the link
Yeah.
to that script and you can, yeah, it's a few hundred lines long and does things in a very specific way for like 3 versions of Ubuntu Linux, and that's it. And
Hmm.
it has vestiges of some experiments I did with Fedora Linux a couple of years ago that are probably broken. Great. Well, I think that's probably so. Yeah, we can. You've sent a request to make this document editable. I will do that, and then I'll send you the link to my script, and then I don't know, Fabian, if there's any other GitHub workflows for P4C or VMV2 that you think are especially interesting to look at, or yeah, maybe, I don't know. I guess one point that I think would be interesting would be the part of the existing P4C workflow that apt-get installs this 2-year-old version of BMV2 for testing. Just knowing where that is, it's probably somewhere in the GitHub workflows file. I haven't looked recently. And then we could just plan for you to, yeah, give us a report and next month, and we can interact via email or Zooloop or whatever in the meantime.
Yeah.
Great. Welcome again. Glad you're here. And
Thanks.
looking forward
Regarding
to
the
working with
document, I sent the request edit access thingy, and I think that went to Michelle.
Oh, okay.
It said the owner is Michelle, and so
Good. Michelle is, if you can check for that and grant him edit access, that would be wonderful.
Sure thing.
cool.
Any other questions, comments, topics for today? All right. Just FYI, I don't plan to drag you, Brian, into a half-hour discussion every week. This was just sort of an introduction, getting to know you
Yeah.
and brainstorming on what to start with. So we may occasionally have another half-hour discussion, but I expect it'll normally be updates and briefer discussion, but we'll
Yep.
play it by ear. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Oh, go
I
ahead.
actually have a question just to extend the meeting by 5
please.
minutes.
No, we've got scheduled another 9 minutes. Go for it.
Okay. This is completely unrelated to the CI discussion. There's a lot of requests on the Open Studio for Tofino on, well, Intel materials. Have you heard anything from Intel on releasing more, like for example P4 Studio or some of the Abago proprietary codes?
I have not heard anything else. There was in the last couple of months the semi-accidental discovery that there's more compiled binaries in that source repo than we originally knew about, that you probably saw a
Exactly.
discussion of. And then there's some issues where people are like doing experiments to figure out exactly what that helps work and what doesn't. Maybe Tofino 2 only, maybe only some boards. I don't know exactly the results of that. Be wonderful if it could be summarized somewhere of what's actually there. Um, I mean, Deb Chatterjee is our main contact, and the
Okay.
last time I asked, he said pretty much like 90% or more of the people that worked on the Tofino compiler at Intel are not at Intel anymore.
That's yeah, I think that makes sense. That's fine. Well, it depends
Yeah,
on what
but
we can get.
P4 Insight is a
Yeah.
separate issue, but yeah, like in some cases, the people that work on the Intel IPU compiler have questions for the Tofino compiler team that they pass on to them if they don't know the answer. I think that I've seen that happen a couple of times in public and probably happens privately sometimes too. So I mean, you're right. P4 Insight would be nice to if they could release. Um, I don't know how much. I mean, you probably seen news about Intel in the news, and
Yes,
when your CEO
I'm
is
aware.
getting tweeted by Donald Trump, it's not a good time.
Yeah.
So yeah, no.
There's a surprising amount of people trying to use this open source
Mhm.
OpenP4 Studio, but they're running into all of these issues of code not
Yes,
being available, which is a bit sad. So
I agree, and I mean, I can make a note the next time I talk to Deb to ask if there's any updates in that department. But like I say, the last update that I remember that sounded pretty significant is yeah, like most of the people that know the code are not working for him anymore,
yeah,
unfortunately. And yeah, the ones who know the code don't have access to it anymore. So I'm not gonna. If I was a betting man, I would bet against many things changing, but I'm not. I'm not trying to curse anything here. I hope it gets better, but I don't know how to make it better.
that's good. Maybe we find some way at some point.
Sure. Yeah. I'll keep my ear out for any opportunities there, but um, I might not push for it as often as somebody like Vladimir Gurovich would. I tend to be a little more um, I mean, I know he's directly emailed folks at Intel multiple times over the last year as well himself. So, but he's also been asking me to ask when I can, and I do occasionally, but maybe not as often as he would. All right. Anything else?
That's it from my side.
I had maybe one thing. Hey, Brian, nice to meet you. I am myself a very long time ago GHC hacker, like 20 years ago. So it's nice to see you. Um, One thing that has often been discussed and we've never really gotten much momentum behind is sort of some kind of gym environment where perhaps different versions of P4 could run simultaneously on some common set of test cases. This might just be a sort of academic idea, but one of the uses of P4 is as a way of just having an independent description of some functionality and control plane interfaces. Um, and so there are a few reference implementations, again, mostly academic, but it would be pretty neat, and there's other projects that have this kind of compiler gym where, uh, you know, we sort of maintain builds for some number of them, and then there's CI that somehow runs some tests, to see if they're agreeing on what the program should do or not. And they're actually, well, I know there's at least a little bit of industrial interest in this, or there was in the past. There was a group in Sweden actually that was working with some folks, I think at Saab, or I think it was Saab, that was interested in this idea. So it's always been beyond our ability to think about setting that up, but it might be a long-term thing to think about that I think would be pretty neat.
Are you saying Gen, like GEN?
Oh, I mean, gym like gymnasium.
Oh, Jim. Yeah, okay.
Jim, sorry.
Right. So like different variants or different versions of the same compiler, or like different compilers.
Probably different
Uh,
compilers or different reference implementations of the language.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a general purpose automation task.
Yeah, I mean it would. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this just bin idea, I'm guessing it wouldn't be hard to make it so that even for the P4C reference compiler, it might be easy to like install multiple versions of those on disk side by side in different directories and have an
Yeah.
environment
I mean,
variable switch
that's
between them or something like that.
yeah, that's the ideal way of doing it, is that you just unpack into a directory, and so then you can unpack two different ones into two different directories. Yeah, and then run some common test suite. I mean, that's the ideal. Like, let me tell you, GHC is far from that ideal itself. Which is maybe just historical accidents. We can start with, if we build this Bindis thing, we can start with knowing what we want out of it, which is some independence like this, where you can, and especially I think it's really like being able to have the test suite separate in a way so that you can point a installed system at a test suite. That's a great thing to just kind of keep in mind as something that we want to enable. So that, I don't know how hard it would be, but I guess the ideal would be that whenever we're building some other stuff, we keep that in mind, so that someday all of a sudden it just falls out, like, oh yeah, it's already there. So I think that's a good thing to keep in the back of the mind.
Good.
all right. Well, sorry for prolonging the message longer. No, nothing immediate, but just something to think about building towards maybe in the long run.
Yeah, and I know, like, Andy, you've got that list of things to work on. That'd be maybe something good to add there somewhere, even if it's just like
Yep.
or like
Yep.
the what was it called, the
Project ideas.
or statement of work,
Oh, right. Statement of work. Yes. Right. I will.
or yeah, maybe that's probably a list from other place. Never mind, doesn't matter. As you can tell, I'm getting a little
I'll
batty.
throw an issue in project ideas and I'll make up a label and call it, I don't know what we want to call a label that are things that we want you to pay more attention to. Do you any labels you
Infrastructure is a good one. Automation.
got it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll throw one of those labels on a couple of issues and email Fabian to double check it and
Okay.
let me know. All
All
right.
right. Well,
I
that
think
was
we're
great.
now at time. I will not ask for any more topics now. Thanks everybody for joining. Glad we had a wonderful discussion. Welcome again, Brian.
Yeah, thanks,
And
and nice to meet everybody.
see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.